Okay, is Howard ready? Okay. Working in the care industry. I retired to Worthing in 1988, having sold the hotel, or so I thought. And after a couple of months, I thought, you know, I really need to have a little bit of an interesting job, you know, just something. And I went down the local job centre, and there was a card, and it said, domestic wanted in a local care home. So I applied and went for the interview. Lovely lady. Oh, you're just what I'm looking for. Start on Monday. Well, the hours were 8 to 2, Monday to Friday, and I thought that is absolutely perfect. Couldn't be better. 6 months down the line, I came out on a Friday, and there in the car park was the director of the charity. Mr. Boddington, he said, I am hearing marvellous things about you. He said, you are absolutely wasted as a domestic. He said, you start on Monday as a care assistant. And so from my lovely semi-retired 8 to 2, Monday to Friday, I went on a rolling shift pattern from 8 in the morning till 8 at night, sometimes overnights, weekends, bank holidays. So away I went. So I was with that charity, would you believe, for over 30 years. And I actually was with them all the way up to my retirement. And over those years, the only job within that organisation I ever applied for was that domestic job. Every other job they asked me to do. So I went from a domestic to a carer, from a carer to a senior carer, from a senior carer to an administrative officer, to a hotel service manager. Then I was facilities manager, health and safety manager. So I had over 28 roles within that charity. But let me assure you, never were any of them highly paid. Because you don't, as I was told when I applied for the first job, we are a charity. And in those days, you didn't earn big money in charities. It's changed a bit now. Compared to what it was 30 years ago, where, to be honest, the standards were pretty poor in some care homes. I was very lucky within the charity that they always endeavoured to give people the highest level of care. But when I used to go out on the agency, I saw some of the other care homes in Worthing, and they were real eye-openers. There were some really bad places. Luckily, those have all gone now. The downside, of course, to that is the care industry has changed to such an extent that it's the costs involved in care. I mean, you get some funding in care which is provided by the state, but that very rarely meets the costs of running the place. And so you find a lot of care homes are private now. And quite honestly, £1,800 a week is cheap. I've known some of the care homes in the town to be £2,000 a week. Well, you know that. How many people can really afford that? Even if you've got a house to sell, you know, how many years? And it's a great calculation to work it out. One of the roles I had, which comes back to my time of understanding cooking and catering, was the importance of food in elderly people. You have to be very mindful of the diet for elderly people and ensuring it's balanced, and also the consistency, because some people have a lot of trouble eating, and you have to be aware that if people think that you just blend a meal up and it's the same, well, it's not. You do that and a lot of the nutritional value and the vitamins are lost. So I spent quite a lot of time working with the experts and with Worthing Borough Council actually on the importance of food and care for the elderly in the care sector. So I had a very exciting time, enjoyed, did a lot of my fundraising for them. We used to regularly be in the Worthing Carnival, Guild Care. They would have a float, and I've been on that float many times. I was on as Mae West, as a teddy bear, as a teddy bear's picnic. I never forget one, the matron of one of the homes was in a wheelchair. The thing jolted and shot her off the back. But yes, care has changed dramatically over those 30 years. And on the whole, it's a lot better now than it was then, but not totally. And in 2014, would you believe, I retired. And I actually did retire in 2014.
Were there any characters at the care home?
Oh yes, oh yes, I could tell you. I mean, one home I worked in when it was for ladies and gentlemen that were termed EMI in those days, elderly mentally infirm, and it was a specialist unit. And we had a lady there who thought she was on a ship. Everything, because she had in her young days, her parents and her had been a lot of the time on liners, and in her dementia that she had, she was convinced she was on a ship, you see. So everything you did with her had to be in the terms of being on a ship. So you would have to say it was mealtime. You'd say, oh, I can say her name because she's long gone. Christine, I won't say her surname. Christine, the captain would like you at his table for lunch. So then she would come to the table and have lunch. She'd come up to you and say, excuse me, she'd go, where's Mrs. Jewson? I'm with Mrs. Jewson's party, which was her mother's name. So, Christine, I'm terribly sorry. I should have told you, your mother has gone ashore with a party, and she said she'll see you at tea in the captain's table. Then she'd be happy. Oh, thank you. Now, the only problem you had was when the fire alarm went off. She would come panicking. What's going on? Is the ship sinking? Is the ship sinking? And I would be saying, no, you're fine. It's not sinking. We're all right. We've got the lifeboats if we need them. Anyway, they brought in, again, changes in the care sector. They brought in this rule. You weren't allowed to go along with their fantasies. They called it reality orientation. So you had to say it like it is and bring them back to reality. Well, Christine, we had this nurse on. I heard her saying, oh, where's mother? I want to go ashore. And I said, Christine, would you come with me? And I showed her a window which used to look out on Victoria Park in Worthing. I said, Christine, what can you see? She said, I can see children playing on a playground. I can see trees. I can see someone walking my dog. I said, Christine, what does that tell you? She said, for God's sake, get the doctor. She said, I'm hallucinating because I know I'm on a ship. So that's one of those stories of reality orientation. I remember we toured round Blind Date. We called it Blind Date, and I was Killer Black. And what we did with that was we got the different homes and we matched up gentlemen from one home and ladies from one of the other homes and did like Blind Date, and we organised with various things. Northbrook College and places helped. We arranged a theatre trip for them, or Northbrook College did a gourmet meal for a couple of them, and it had to be geared around physically what they could cope with. But yeah, did quite a lot of that. Bingo, did a lot of bingo. You always had trained nurses on duty, always. I never forget this day. I was on duty and we had an agency nurse in, and I just went over to her and I said, Victoria was her name. I said, oh, Victoria, just to let you know, we do tea at 4 o'clock. She said, I am in charge. She said, in my country, I am considered a princess. I said, well, you're very unfortunate then, because in this town and country, I am a queen, so I outrank you. And that went round the whole of the charity, that I'd put Victoria in her place. And it worked like a dream. The worst thing you can do if people are, let's say, slightly confused, you've got to imagine that actually it's feelings they're working on. So if they're wanting to go out, they're feeling trapped, yeah? Now, a lot of homes lock the doors, bar the gates, hold them back. Well, then you get terrific problems. Our rule was one of us would take them out. So you go out, start walking down the road, especially if it's a cold day. Within 2 minutes, you go, wasn't it cold? Oh yeah, they say it is cold. Isn't it awful? Wouldn't it be nice to go back and have a nice cup of tea? That's a good idea. Back you come, and they're happy. Whereas you know, the number of times I've heard noise and screaming and shouting, and you've got staff barring a door trying to stop somebody going out, and it leads to problems. We used to get more coming in. What you'd have, they'd come out of other care homes and get into yours. So you're doing a tea round and you're going around handing out the tea or talk. Who's this? So you'd say, excuse me, but who's that lady? I don't know. So then you ring the police. Is anyone? Yes, Millstone or whatever has lost one of their residents. Well, I said, ring them up and tell them they're here having a cup of tea. You used to often get that. And the other thing that was worse, actually, you used to get families dump relatives. They would come in as though they were a visitor, and then they'd sit them in your lounge, and then you'd look and they'd be gone. So then you've got to get social services involved and all those sort of things. It's a class and abandonment. And if we had rooms, we would keep them there for a few days until social services sorted things out. Well, thank you all very much. I hope it's been useful and I hope you get something out of it. Thank you.